9 years ago, a thought was born, an idea took root. An idea that children are not just the future, they are the present. An idea that their voices matter.
When I was starting in 2017, we didn't have any media space, both digital and traditional, that was exclusively doing children. So, especially providing content for children, by children. So, and then in 2017, that was the height of Twitter. And I happened to be kind of an influencer on Twitter, but I was the only person who was speaking to children. About children. So you'll find out, get tagged and this, and then I am a trained journalist for those people. I don't know. Yeah, I know. But I thought you're trained social worker. Yes, I'm also trained social worker. I am one of those people whose parents invested in many courses. Me, I'm one of those ones. So in my training, I had a lot of my classmates, and whenever I would tell them, would you cover this story? This is an amazing story about children. And they'll go like, Jennifer, editor this, time this. Children's stories don't sell that. And it came from a frustration that people are not covering children. And then number 3 is my daughter then was pretty young, and she was obsessed by Dora the Explorer. And then on TV, there was only one show that was showing black children and kinky hair. There was Dr. Mustafin. Was the only show that was showing about children with black hair and like kinky hair. And then one day my daughter comes from school and she's screaming and crying and saying, "Mommy," and she had locks, like really amazing locks, like really had invested since she was born on those locks. And she goes like, "No, Mommy, I want to comb my hair straight." So like, I want to comb my hair straight. And she like threw a whole tantrum. And then it started dawning on me the impact of media on childhood. Yes, another course I've done, child development. I did child development for my master's. And then I started connecting on how media shapes child development, child psychology, and the mental framework.
From that bold belief, Mtoto News was sired with one mission: to make children visible. But visibility is more than being seen. It is being heard. It is being involved. It is participation.
Mtoto News has been in existence for 9 years. 9 years, almost clocking a decade. And one of the things that has been at the core of the work that we do is child participation. Mtoto News is child participation, and child participation is Mtoto News. So basically, what we do is ensuring that children are given a chance to be seen, to be heard, and to be engaged. And they speak about matters concerning them in a free way, in a way that they know how to. Because at Mtoto News, we believe that children are experts in their own way and that their opinion matters. That is why at Mtoto News, we welcome them to our table. You can see our space, you can look at what we do. Everything revolves around the voice of the child, and that is why we amplify it, because you know that child participation is a core right and something that that everyone needs to embrace in different setups. In the family setup, that is why we involve the family unit. In school setup, that is why we have programs involving the schools, and in the civil society space, and actually in government also, because that is why we have different programs that allow for children to air their views, to give their opinions on matters government, starting from budgeting, starting from child protection, and different other things. So Mtoto News is child participation, and child participation is Mtoto News.
For 9 years, this has not been a slogan. It has been a standard. Nothing about children without children. And when you give a child a voice, you don't just shape a story, you shape a leader.
My growth and At Mtoto has been transformational. I joined at a very young age. I was 15. I joined through the Sauti Zetu program, and Mtoto is all about making children visible and making them to be seen as players and not spectators. And personally, I have experienced that. They've been able to trust me and provided a platform for me where I've been able to stand out in different spaces and being able to give ideas and advocate for other children on behalf of other children. And with that, I've been able to understand what truly advocacy means. It's not just speaking, it's about understanding, being responsible and accountable, and understanding deeply the issues. And I've been able to quite achieve a lot. Right now, I write stories that affect children, that focuses on children matters.
This is an impact from a participant to professionals, from a child in front of the camera to a leader behind it. Mtoto News is powered by a generation that understands the urgency of now, a generation bold enough to innovate, young enough to imagine differently, fearless enough to lead.
Mtoto News is a children's organization, and I believe children are closer to the Gen Zs than they are to the older, persons. This is not pun intended, but I think even if you look at how our programs have majorly been, diversified and the thought system behind them, we have realized strategically that Gen Zs think with a lot of ease on children matters compared to the older, generations that we work with. And the older generation does not relate so much with them without focusing so much in how to balance them and, control what they think as children and how best they can articulate. We have realized that Gen Zs are easy on them and allow them to, let out their ideas and become real about it in comparison to the older children. So strategically, it has worked very well for Mtoto News to work a lot with the Gen Zs because of that perspective.
When young people shape conversations about children, the future becomes intentional. Growth is not accidental here. It is nurtured. It is trusted. It is elevated.
Well, I started in Mtoto News in 2017, where I was reading news. We had a makeshift studio in the kitchen, and part of my job, other than reading news, was writing a few pieces or articles on child rights and policy work. And then over the years, I have grown from that. I had to go back to school, and then when I came back as a legal officer after finishing law school, and then I also did a few HR. I had a few HR responsibilities. I was helping the organization just set up some of HR systems and structures to manage how everything is supposed to be run. And then from there, I grew into leading research. So at some point, I was actually handling like four departments. So there's legal, there's HR, there's research, and then I grew into now leading operations. I was chief operations officer for about 2 years. And then from there, I grew into deputy CEO, just being able to add on to the operations bit. By this time, I'd already dropped the HR. So I was leading research, legal, operations, and as deputy CEO. And then now my focus is head of research and legal, which is where my passion lies. And I can say over the years, it has been quite the journey, because in all of these roles, they have shaped me to be who I am today. Learning how to work with diverse groups of people, different numbers of people, whether a small group or a large group, and also just learning the dynamics of a startup, because when an organization is starting, you end up doing a lot of the roles that if a well-established organization was existing, they could have hired multiple people for that role, but you end up handling multiple roles just to grow yourself. And for me, I was very open to learning. I worked very closely with Jennifer, who actually helped me learn, let me say 90% of the things I learn or I know right now, because my background is in law, but now I had to focus on children. And so a lot of the things I know right now in research, in legal, focusing on children, I learned all of that from her, and they have really helped me grow, and even to be able to pass on this knowledge and skills to my team in the legal and research departments. So I can say it has been a very, very fruitful journey. And yeah, anyone who wants to get into this space, not just child rights advocacy or child policy work or child rights work, but in any organization that's starting, I'd say feel free, feel open to learn, have a teachable spirit, because there's so much you can learn even as you try to find your footing to what exactly suits you. That's why currently I'm heading the legal and research, because that's where I found my footing.
Nine years of internal growth, 9 years of expanding capacity, 9 years of building leaders from within. But after 9 years, are we where we envisioned to be?
Let me tell you a funny story. I envisioned to be where I am. To be honest, yes, as I said, I'm a trained journalist. University of Nairobi, the class of 2005. Now you can calculate my age. That's when I graduated. But I was a journalist, I think, for about 6 months. And I felt this is not me. But I used my training to do other things. So I'm a social worker. So I have a diploma in social work. So I used my communication skills for my social work. So when I felt in my spirit, for me, all those combined things that I've said, plus a very strong impression in my spirit that I needed to start this for such a time as this, I did not know how. Okay? So I started this thing, okay, making children visible. The how is what I did not know. Okay? So if you ask me, have I envisioned where I wanted to be? For me, I think we have done so well. The fact that we have footprints across Africa, that we are not just a Kenyan organization, especially being a digital organization, a small organization, in terms of personnel, in terms of resources, the amount of impact that we've had is amazing. Like since 2022, I think we reach a minimum of 10 million people every year. For me, that is amazing. It's amazing, and I'm so grateful for that. That we have reached so many children across Africa, from Sierra Leone, Senegal, Mali, from down South Africa, Zambia, Malawi, in East Africa, Kenya, Tanzania, Ethiopia, Uganda. For me is impact.
The journey has stretched us, refined us, strengthened us, from one child to thousands across the globe. As Mtoto News turns 9, the vision expands. 9 years down, 9 more to rise. From visibility to influence, from participation to leadership.
My goal is to be able to hand over the mandate for the children to be able to run it. But one of my biggest dreams is to have like a huge complex where we have different levels for different, like a whole studio room. I know people are saying TV and whatever, but the studios are different. We can be able to produce for digital. Okay, we can be able to produce with AI because that's where we are going. We have history of media and children media from Africa because we don't understand. Because right now you ask, for example, my son, how did people share information in African tradition? Very few children know that. We need to document all that, how information was shared from one. So we need that there so that children can be able to understand how the history, our history as Africans, and how it's shaping us. Is it very different from what we're experiencing now? Arguably, I don't think so. And then also I've said in terms of health, in terms of I would want to have a footprint, like physical offices in every region of this continent. Right now, we are working towards getting in a few African countries. We already have an office in South Africa. So we are hoping to be able to get one in Sierra Leone, Senegal, in the Francophone Africa, because those kids have been really left behind in conversations in conversations that affect them, you know. Like, for example, one of our strategies from Mtoto News from last year to the next couple of years is to be able to focus on a Francophone and the Portuguese-speaking countries, because not all Africa speak English, okay? So we are really very intentional in being able to do. So we are hoping to set up Africa's, like now we are hoping by the end of the year, this year we have set up an office in Mozambique. South Africa is already running. We are hoping to be able to set up in other parts of the continent also. There's something we are cooking. I don't want to say it too loud, but there's something cooking. We are hoping to launch something by April, and then by the end of the year, we'll have it full-fledged.
This is not just an anniversary. It is a reminder that one idea can become a movement, that one child can become a leader, that one platform can change narratives. Happy 9th anniversary, Mtoto News. Mtoto News at 9, making children visible yesterday, today, and for generations to come.